Alright guys, so the video I have for you today is not the strongest argument, I would say, but it is one that I think of a lot, and it pertains to the question, the overall question that this channel seeks to answer, which is about, should you bring new lives into this messed up world that we have? So the sub-question in this video is, what kind of a world will the children of tomorrow, the children that you might be considering existing, as a verb, existing, what kind of world are they going to inherit? And is it responsible to force them into existence and to pass this world onto them? It is a dangerous world. If you are someone that thinks to themselves, it's all right, I think they'll have a good quality of life, I think we can rest assured that the children of tomorrow, the next generation, the unborn, will certainly have a good life just like ours, and they might even have an even better life than ours that's free from fear and pain and longing. If you think that, I don't know how you came to that conclusion, but I will give you 3 points. I will narrow it down to 3 points here, which should be something of a concern to you about the state of the world and where things are heading. Not just for some people, not just for people in developing countries, in underdeveloped countries. No, for everyone. I'm going to break it down into 3. The first one we're starting with is nuclear proliferation. I'll just put nukes. In the timeline of humanity, it will be broken into 2 eras. The era of humanity before the Manhattan Project and the era after the Manhattan Project. If you've watched Oppenheimer, you might have some kind of idea of what I mean, but I'll give you a better movie recommendation in a moment. After the Manhattan Project, humanity had the capability to destroy itself, okay? And it was kind of proven in Japan with what were known as Big Boy and Little Boy, which were dropped, the only nukes that were actually dropped in warfare that I know of, outside of testings, and they were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, 2 towns comprised mostly of civilians. The victims of that attack were largely civilians of all age groups, old people, young people, families. They all were affected by the blast. It was indiscriminate. And I would say that the people who were at the epicenter of the explosion on those days got off pretty lightly because they were killed instantly. They were vaporized, okay? The people that really had it tough were all the people on the outskirts of the explosion who did not die straight away. They suffered long, agonizing deaths. They developed odd tumors and radiation sickness, which is very, very nasty. So symptoms of radiation sickness include uncontrollable vomiting for days on end, weakness, just disgusting levels of nausea. Just to give you an idea, some people's skin melted off. Some people suffered horrible burns that they sustained for weeks until they finally died very slowly. Okay, this is just painting a quick picture, but there's actually a movie that's much better than Oppenheimer, because Oppenheimer did not really approach this from the victim's point of view. It was just looking at the creator of the bomb, Oppenheimer. But I prefer this movie. It's a British movie, and it's really good. It's called Threads. Now, if you want to experience, and I think you should experience firsthand what it's like for people to experience a nuclear blast. Threads depicts it very realistically. It's a very good film. And it doesn't just show the aftermath of the bomb, it also shows how people's lives are ruined, the survivors, what they have to go through, and even the next generation, how it ripples throughout multiple generations, the fallout problems of that. Okay, so how many of these bombs exist? Okay, do you know the number? That was a trick question. You don't know the number. I don't know the number. Nobody knows the number, because there are countries like Israel that, officially speaking, do not have nuclear weapons, but we all know that they do. Okay, It was a big scandal. Most of the people who were the whistleblowers of this scandal are now dead because they were assassinated. But we know through their accounts that there are countries that have nuclear weapons that we don't even know about. And the countries where we know they have nuclear weapons, like Russia, it is just an estimate, okay? And just a country like Russia alone is numbers in the thousands, okay? Thousands of nuclear weapons just by Russia, okay? That's in the hands of a gentleman, not a gentleman, of a monster called Vladimir Putin, okay? Do you trust Vladimir Putin with 1,000 nukes? Do you trust Donald Trump with 1,000 nuclear weapons? Because that's what he has. He has that in his briefcase, and if he's having a bad day, he could just end it all. They could just end it all. Whoever strikes first, there is kind of an agreement, an unwritten agreement called mutually assured destruction, MAD for short, okay? And this is kind of what's keeping the human race teetering in this balance where no one sets it off, because the moment someone triggers it, another nuclear weapon will automatically retaliate, another nuclear armed country. There are submarines right now that are just in undisclosed location. They're in deep water, they're out at sea all the time, and they're just patrolling, they're going around, and they could be anywhere. We don't know where they are. We just know that they're out there somewhere, and they have nuclear weapons, kind of surface to air missiles, right? Ballistic missiles on board, and they're just out there in the ocean, and there's loads of these submarines, okay? So when there's a little bit of tension escalating, like with Taiwan, you just know that there are nuclear armed submarines just in that area somewhere, all right? The UK has a Trident program, and you just know that there's somewhere within firing range of Russia, okay? How do you feel about that, you know? And I want to remind you, they don't just have the potential to end it all. These bombs don't just necessarily end everything quickly. The worst situation is that they're slightly accidentally off target, they detonate a nuclear weapon, or that they fall into the hands of a terrorist group or something, a bioweapon as well. Bioweapons are also very bad. There's a lot of ways to kill people, but there are even more ways to just inflict a massive amount of suffering on them. And I'm talking about your kids. Your kids. You are not exempt from this, okay? I don't care where you are in the world, you're not exempt from nuclear fallout, nuclear radiation. Once that cloud, right, you've got a big mushroom cloud, like so, right? That's a mushroom cloud. It's got some rings around it, right? That goes into the atmosphere. All of that nuclear ash just gets picked up on the wind, and it can travel for thousands of miles. So another thing I want to talk about here is war, right? We will talk about this a little bit here as well. I've put a drone here, right? We've seen what modern warfare looks like. When you think about war, you imagine taking a rifle, some kind of Vietnam type thing. That is old war. Modern war doesn't look like that. Modern war is fought with these. So what it looks like for a trooper, just an average infantryman, when their country is being attacked, is they're just in their bunkers, crouched down, waiting for a bomb to drop on them. Okay, it's not fun, it's not heroic. And the reason I say this is because in the 21st century, we've gotten off relatively okay so far. Like, since the Second World War, we've actually experienced an amazing stretch of relative peace in the world. And that generation who fought in the Second World War, they're almost all dead now. And when you die, there are two types of death, right? There's the physical death, where you physically die, and then there's memory death, which is where the people who were alive around you, who remember you, they start to kind of forget about you, right? That's memory death. You're dead to the world, you know, you're dead in everyone's memory as well. So it won't be long before veterans of World War II and Vietnam and the Gulf War and things like that will experience memory death. And that's when you get this kind of nationalistic sentiment coming back, this kind of pro-war, expansionist attitudes from countries like America. We're already seeing it with America, where they talk about forcibly taking Iceland, right? It's already happening, guys. It's already happening. This isn't some far off prospect, right? It's already happening. And so we're due for another war. We are due for, and I'm not talking about a little skirmish in the Middle East, which you read about in the news, or you see in the news, with Arabic people who perhaps you don't particularly care about because you don't speak their language. They're all far away in a country you've never visited, right? You've been seeing that on the news and you can just say to yourself, oh, isn't that a shame? No, I'm talking about a world war. We are due for a world war. And you have to ask yourself, is this an appropriate time? Is it morally the responsible thing to do to bring new lives into this kind of dangerous world? And I mean danger in multiple ways. Danger of your life being shit, really shit, right? You can't control this. You are not in control of nuclear proliferation. You're not in control of nuclear war. It will happen, whether you want it to or not. It will happen regardless, or it could happen regardless. It's not something you're in control of. You can't control whether your future children suffer from radiation sickness, okay? You can't control if the adult versions of your future children are forced to fight in a modern war where they are shivering in a little bunker somewhere, scared at night for the 50th night in a row, just waiting for a drone to drop a bomb on their head. This is the world they inherit. It seems to me, if you bring them into this world, you've already endangered them. You've already placed them into a bad situation, which is bad parenting, right? You've already committed bad parenting by choosing selfishly to exist them. So that's nukes. Now we're going to talk about AI. Well, AI, I will tell you right now, AI is the buzzword. The truth is, you don't even need AI to be in a world of trouble. The future is not looking bright, and it's not because of this stupid buzzword, artificial intelligence. It's not necessarily about the intelligence, it's about technology and where it's going. Before we even get to the threat of general AI, what would you call it? You know, a supercomputer that can use AI, hack everyone, read everyone's profiles, create a sorting list of who lives and who dies, who's in prison, who's not. Before we even get to that kind of dystopia that many people feel is fictional and is far away, we can look right now. We're already living in a surveillance state in much of the world. It's closer to 1984 than you realize. These days, if you want to live in any kind of way, it involves giving people access to data that really they should have no right to ask for, right? Because everything is done through one of these. You thought this was an ID badge, but really it's a computer screen. You know, everything has to be interfaced through this. If you want to buy a house, if you want to rent a house to live in, if you want to pay utility bills like electricity and water. And this information will be sucked up by companies like Palantir, right? Palantir, which sells it to the government, which sells it to authoritarian regimes, right? And your children will have to do this. In fact, they'll have to do more than what you did. This is a problem that's getting worse. Some of the most influential, some of the richest people in the world are driving us towards a techno-dystopia. It's a surveillance state. There's no privacy. You are bringing lives into a world where there is no privacy, where if they have an opinion that runs against the authoritarian regime, it doesn't matter whether they committed a crime. A crime can be invented. There's sufficient data on them to construct a crime. This is what Edward Snowden was warning us about. And it's already here. And this is our problem to figure out. But to bring a new life into this kind of surveillance state is wildly irresponsible. Like, we need to dedicate our efforts into dismantling this kind of surveillance power. And maybe then we can think about bringing new lives into the world. So they won't have freedom in the same way that you experienced in your childhood. their childhood won't look like that. Or maybe it might look like that on the surface, but there's a very sinister undercurrent that's happening. You know, everything that they do, all of their activity is being logged for their whole lives. They will have a dossier that's being shared with corporations, governments. It's not just to sell them things, it's also to keep them under control, to curtail their freedom and to consolidate power. If you imagine like a power pyramid, where you often imagine it like this, and there's like, you know, there's rich people at the top, there's politicians at the top, right? But it actually doesn't look like that, or it's not going to look like that. It's actually like this. That's most of us, right? And then completely separated off, up here on a little island, is the rich and powerful, who have a monopoly on surveillance technology and capital. And they will control us in a new form of digital slavery before we even get into the problems that come with AI. So that's the surveillance part. But what I also want to talk about in this section is that digital technology is taking people's jobs, you know, everyone's jobs, not just writers, not just artists. It's going after everyone's jobs, right? Because the owners of this AI technology want to take more of the pie for themselves. I want you to ask yourself, how will my children compete, right? What skills could you possibly teach to your offspring that would give them any kind of ability to compete in this AI dystopia, where AI is taking everyone's jobs? I mean, we hear a lot of talk about UBI, right? Universal Basic Income, a way for AI to create a bunch of value and profit for everyone, and then to give some of those proceeds, some of that profit, back to everyday people. Really? Do you think that Elon Musk is going to do that? Do you think that Sam Altman is going to, by his own volition, set up UBI? Do you think any of the people in power right now have just the inkling of an intention to give you money, to give your family money? You've got to be joking. UBI is a pipe dream. It's an idea, it's a concept that will remain a concept because these people in power don't give a shit about you or your family or your kids or your wife. They want to consolidate power. Because power is kind of a relative thing, and the less power you have financially and politically, the more power is consolidated with them. They have to take profit and power and money from somewhere in order to have more of it, relatively speaking. So this one was tech, and this next one, you've probably guessed it by now, but it's, yeah, a little bit of a throwback here. Global warming. Maybe you forgot about this. Maybe the media had you forget all about this, right? Because there was a concerted effort, a collaborative effort across politicians and corporations and media conglomerates to get you to stop talking about global warming. It's not on the news anymore. It had its time. Maybe people got bored of it, I don't know. But it didn't stop becoming a problem. I don't know what happened. I don't know why. People have just like moved on from global warming. It's going to fuck us all. The truth is, we lost. We lost the fight here. All right? ExxonMobil, Shell Oil, Gazprom, OPEC, they won. They beat us. We tried to make a shift to green energy. Some of the most powerful people in the world were given a choice. Do we save the future generations? Do we save the planet and therefore ensure the human race will continue and survive? And they said no. No, we want to have even more wealth and power right now. So there's no stopping this. That's the thing. People say, oh, we're reaching the point of no return, right? I'm going to put no return. Scientists are always warning. They're looking at the numbers. Scientists are looking at the numbers and they're always saying, guys, we've got to do something. We're about to reach the point of no return. Now, I don't mean to be a doomer, but we've reached the point of no return. And that's because of the human factor. That's because of the economic factor, that fossil fuel conglomerates, the power of the fossil fuel industry, it put all its power together and dug in its heels and lobbied for politicians who don't give a shit about the climate or the environment or the planet, the health of the planet. And it's because of those efforts that we will not win. This temperature increase will not come down. The CO2 in the air and the methane in the air will not come down. In the next generation, it won't come down. Like, this is going to continue for a long ass time. And as it does, there's going to be population increase here. Remember, there's going to be population increase and there's going to be more people. Some of those people are going to migrate to less, it's going to dissipate, right? But as there are more people on the planet, there are going to be less livable areas. You know, some places are going to become deserts. Some places are going to be too hot to be comfortable. And so the competition over land, housing, resources, water is going to become really difficult. And that comes back to this: compete, right? How will your kids compete? And why is it that you're leaving that as a problem for them to solve? Why is it a problem for them to inherit a world which is doomed? Like, we can know by this point the quality of life of people inhabiting the earth is going to go down. It's not logistically feasible to colonize Mars. It's not. Forget about that. That's a stupid project. Mars is not logistically feasible for colonization. Who would want to live there as well? As a slave. You'd be Musk's slave, by the way, if you live there. There's no laws on Mars. He would own you. He would have your only means of transportation to and from Mars, right? He can restrict your air supply at any time. If you agree to go to Mars with Musk, you're Musk's slave, okay? Don't go to Mars with Musk, right? Side tangent there. But we know that the standard of living overall is going to go down because of population increase and the increase in competition over resources. What have you got? What have you got to ensure that your children's lives are going to be, for the whole span of their life, 70 plus years, that whole time, what have you got? Do you have billions in wealth? Do you have billions of dollars? Do you have like some kind of empire? No. Okay, you're just a serf. You're like a small degree away from a serf when it comes to Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg. You're a small degree away from being a serf, peasant. You don't have any assurity that your offspring can live a decent life. You don't have anything. How have you managed to fool yourself into thinking that bringing a life into this fucked up situation is something that's remotely responsible? And I've only just gone into 3 points. Anyway, it's time for me to end the video. Hope I've given you food for thought. This channel is all about the question of whether or not you should start a family. I wonder if you have worked out by this point which side of the fence I'm leaning on. See you later.